Hello, hello. We are live. Happy Friday, everybody. Eric, your humble malt muser. Throwing together a little live stream tonight on a Friday. We got a weekend coming up. Why not connect with some folks? Good to see. So we got some people in the chat. Hope everybody's, well, for the most part, at least us Central Time, Eastern Time folks, winding down the workday. How's everybody? Everybody else is probably getting close to finishing up. So, thought I would go live, have a couple jams with everybody in a even more casual format than the old Tasty Tuesdays, but also was, I like to try to go on when at some random other times when I have the opportunity to, because I know there are some folks that can't come in on Tuesdays or, it gets too late or whatever. So maybe we'll see some fresh faces tonight, in addition to our good killer crew, the Malt Mongrels, as Cohen would say. That'd be nice. So, put together a little flight tonight and thought I would go live and share it with everybody. What we're going to do here is we're going to make our way around the quote-unquote Islands region of Scotland. Now, if you are somebody who subscribes to the belief that these regions are as distinct as some in the Scotch community will say, well, the Islands region is definitely one that's been getting more attention over the years. So a little bit of 101. The Islands region is the 6th region of Scotch whiskey, along with the Highlands, Lowlands, Islay, Campbelltown, and Speyside. So really, when we're talking about the islands right now, what folks are talking about is really 4 different islands, which is, 5. Orkney, Mull, Jura, and Skye. So 4. Those 4, basically. There are a few others. Oh, and Arran. I'm sorry. So 5, yeah. So those are the 5. Arran, Mull, Jura, Skye, and Orkney. Now, according to like the Scotch whiskey professionals or whatever the hell, the Islands region is really just the Highlands. And Islay, while an island, is not included in this because they're kind of own distinct thing. So what is an Islands whiskey? Well, it doesn't really have a whole lot of serious definition, which in part is why I think we're going to enjoy this little tour that I've put together of a couple of the islands. So basically, generally it has some of the more Highland profile, florals, cider, fruits, things like that, but also tends to be smokier. Not Islay smoky, but smokier, allegedly, due to like kind of peaty undertones, according to what some say. So, but it is so varied. It's probably the most varied of any of these regions insofar as the regions mean anything. Some will argue that, and have said that the region stuff is really just nothing more than a marketing thing. Others say, oh no, there's a real distinct style. Now, Islay clearly has a distinct profile for the most part of all the whiskeys that come out of there. Campbelltown too, to some degree. Speyside and Highland, I find, can be pretty interchangeable. And the majority of Scotch whiskeys are coming out of those 2 regions. And then also you have your lowlands, which, yes, I think tend to be a little bit on the triple distilled side, all that. But anyways, if you feel strongly one way or the other about this, leave a comment in the chat and love to hear what you have to say about it. But we got 5 distilleries set up for action tonight. And before I get into all of them that you see scrolling across the bottom of the screen, I have the first one in the glass already, and we'll talk about it in just a moment. But first, I want to say hi to folks who are already ponied up in the chat. We got 8 folks in, which is great. First in the door, happy Friday, Mr. French. How you doing, sir? What's up in Duluth? Donner Pass Whiskey out in Northern California. He's working, but he's going to have it on in the background. Great to see you, Donner Pass. Congrats again on winning that Patreon sample raffle. I think you second place. So a couple samples will be in the mail soon coming your way. Over there in LA, it's our good friend James Chang. How you doing, sir? It's lunch. He's also working. Our West Coast folks are still working. Gerbic is here from Jupiter, Florida. How you doing, sir? Interesting program tonight. Eager to learn a bit. Great. Well, I hope to not disappoint you. Mr. French says, I have had most of the island's whiskeys except Scapa. Yeah, the Scapa is up on Orkney with Highland Park, if I'm not mistaken. Didn't care much for Jura, but only tried 2 so far. Are any of you good folks enjoy Jura malts? I've had a couple. I can't say I enjoyed. They have a very distinct flavor, and I don't know how exactly to describe it. But the 2 or 3 that I've had, I was not a big fan of. And Jura is a island just north of Islay. You can see Jura from Islay. The distilleries, I think, from Kalila for sure. And actually, Ardbeg Corrie Vrecken gets its name from this like treacherous strait of water and this whirlpool within that is between Jura and Islay. So it's called the Corrie Vrecken, hence the Corrie Vrecken name there. Gerbic's not heard of Jura. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, we will not be tasting any Juras tonight. Rob MC's in the house from Pittsburgh. What's up, buddy? Coming in hot from Pitt. Just poured some Highland Park Cask Strength. All right. Is that the second batch, the new one, or the first one? Paris is in the house. Cool thought, my friend. Indeed, it is easier this hour and day. Cheers. Great. I'm glad. Try to do this every once in a while. Hope all is well in Paris. Speaking of Paris, I saw a Broadway show last night, the Moulin Rouge Broadway show here in Chicago. And of course, that's set in Paris. So I've had France on the brain. India's in the house too. Our great friend Mahir over in Mumbai. What's up, brother? Great to see you. There's Juniper Lane, another one of our Patreon winners for a sample. Congrats on that again, Juniper. Great to have you here. Michael Besley, nice surprise. Michael's coming to us from Maryland. Hey, cool. Glad you could stop in and say hi at least, man. That's great. Good to see you. Islands are not an official Scotch whiskey. We don't care. That is right. That is right. And there is the signal beaming straight out of the Phoenix Sun Valley. It's Leo. What up, brother? Happy Friday. Peter White, Ontario. Yeah, cheers, man. Great to see you, sir. All right. Besley has had the Abin. Yeah, that one is that's the one I'm not super familiar with. Drinking some HP 13. Great. Jura's owner and distillery releases profile around 25th rebranded. Yeah, Jura's owned by the Wyatt McKay, right? The ones that own Dalmore. Still, maybe? I'm not sure. Yeah. It was a great show. One of the benefits of living in Chicago, the Broadway shows come through. Okay. So we got 9 folks in, man. Great. Nice chill start to a nice Friday. I hope everybody's got some fun weekend plans. Anybody got anything in the glass? I see some folks are drinking Highland Parks already, which is great. So the first one we're drinking here tonight is the 10-year-old Arran. Now, this is a whiskey that I have reviewed already, but it is one that I've gone back to. It is also one that's been getting a lot of hype around Whiskey Tube for the last 6 months, particularly after it won that Scotch Online Whiskey Awards, the Reviewer's Choice or something like that. This is an older bottling of it, but this is the 10-year-old. It's bottled at 46% ABV. It's non-chill filtered. It's natural color. That means they are not filtering out any of the heavier oils. So this is going to have that full, nice mouthfeel. And they are not adding any fake color to it. And it's bottled at 46%. Really, it's kind of the holy trinity. This is really what you want to see at minimum for a good single malt Scotch. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to do the best we damn can with these whiskeys to try and find any type of commonality across these. My general feeling is that there may be commonality among some, but for the most part, not others. And this Arran 10 is a classic example of one that I don't think really fits this, whatever you want to call an island profile. This one, not necessarily. you do get a little bit of citrus. You get a little bit of saltiness, so perhaps. But there's also whiskeys from the Highlands, like Old Pulteney, which has a similar notes, and that's not an Islands whiskey. So coastal, right? Coastal notes, we'll say that. What you really get out of here, though, is a nice honey, citric, and I don't want to. It's not too citric. It's got some citrus in the background, but you get a nice honey note. It's rounded. It's mellow. It's just got a really nice nose. It's got a freshness to it. This is really, when the hype around Arran really seems to have kind of coincided with their rebrand. These older bottles, as you can see, not exactly the prettiest looking labeling and presentation. So I do wonder if the branding of Arran has actually renewed attention on the distillery, because the whiskey itself hasn't changed in terms of its presentation. This is what that 10-year-old looks like. And I would definitely say that as far as a 10-year-old whiskey, this is one of the better ones out there. You find this around $55 USD. It's not too bad. It's just a really good. It's got some complexity. It's got a nice mouthfeel. It's got good ABV. It's presented with integrity, and you can't ask for much more these days. So I'm just going to have a sip. Again, this is the old labeling of the Arran 10. I do have one of the newer ones. Let me do a comparison. So as far as island whiskeys, it's really difficult to say that this has much of any type of island characteristic that I can pull out of it. This is currently the only distillery on Arran, but there's a second one I think on the verge of opening. Lag, I think. So more coming from there. Or are they on Mull? I don't remember. Anyways, happy Friday, y'all. Arran 10. This is one of those whiskeys that you pour a dram. The first thing that comes to your mind is the phrase, there's just nothing wrong with that. This whiskey does everything it should really well. It's got a pretty oily mouthfeel, vanilla, butterscotch, honey, slight nuttiness, little citric, a little bit salty. This is mostly bourbon cask influenced, at least on the palate. There might be a little sherry. You get a little bit of like apple and pear in the background. Nicely balanced, just a delicious whiskey. And for the price these days, this is one of those that I would consider buying one or two of. With the way prices seem to be going up, and you want a standard everyday dram you can just grab that's going to give you what you want. Man, tough to turn your nose up at Arran 10. Really is. And I'll readily admit, the only reason I thought about Arran 10 was because of all the hype that surrounded it. I have had Arrans prior to this, but had never bought the Arran 10. And our good friend Alan is in the house. What's up, man? How are you, sir? Joining us from the UK. Always good to see you. Yeah, good old Arran 10. Can't go wrong. Old school. Yeah, it is. It's an old school one. I think I might do a comparison between the two. See if I can pick up any difference. Kind of like I did with the Highland Park when they rebranded. Leo said, I accidentally poured a bourbon earlier. Going to get a new glass for Island Scotch. No problem. We're in no hurry tonight. So, are you a Southsider? No. I've adopted the White Sox as my American League team. I am not from Chicago. I'm from Milwaukee, so I'm a Brewers fan. But living here, it's really hard when you're from Wisconsin to find any sports teams you can cheer for. Can't cheer for the Bears. Can't cheer for the Bulls. Definitely can't cheer for the Cubs. So, I've started going to some Sox games last year, and, it's good to have like a second team you can kind of cheer on. And then there's the Blackhawks as well. But yeah, I do like their hats. And so I've grabbed a few. So I'm a little bit of a South Side poser, but, if I stick around long enough, they'll let me in. Peter White. I have 2 Arrans, but both are closed right now. Of the 10-year-old? Greg's Whiskey Guide. I agree. Arran Styles kind of hesitates between Highlands and Lowlands. Yeah, I mean, so this is that thing, right? Like, I think, as I was kind of saying in the beginning, on just top lines about the regions, I think in terms of styles, Campbelltown has a little bit of a distinct style. Islay definitely does. Highlands and Speyside blur the lines a lot, in my opinion. I personally, if you poured me up 5 blind whiskeys aged in the same casks, half from Islands, half from Speyside, half from Highlands, good chance I'm not going to get those right. And the lowland whiskeys kind of get in there too. Glengoyne is the lightest Highland whiskey you can probably find, and yet it's like just like a block away from the lowland region. And again with the island whiskeys, right, and kind of what we're talking about here, like if there's a commonality here, maybe there's a coastal aspect. I don't know. I'll tell you though, like this Arran 10, there's no peat in this. Some of these island whiskeys have peat. We'll be getting into a few of those. It's not an Islay peat. So it's a more distinct type of peat. Maybe it's more, it's more heather, sweeter, I guess. But I don't know. Would you describe Talisker as a heathered peat? I don't know about that. Torabhaig? So I don't know. I think maybe there's a little bit of a push to make this a region that doesn't really matter. But again, I'm not sure they all matter at all, really. So here on this Arran 10 canister, I should just mention this. It does say that the Arran malt, this 10-year-old expression of a fresh and vibrant expression of Arran malt with all the hallmarks of our classic island style. Again, I don't know. I don't know what that means. I'm not so sure what an island style is. I don't know. If anybody else has an idea, definitely share. Oh, and I just accidentally caught the tasting notes on here, and they said coconut, and now I'm tasting it. There is a little bit of a coconut thing. It's like tropical fruit. I think this is a really good whiskey. I give this a 4 out of 5 when I reviewed it. I'll stick by that. For the price, for the quality, this is a damn good whiskey. Quite enjoy it. You haven't missed much, Alan. We're just hanging out. The only Arran, Michael Besley, I have an unopened bottle of the 25. Ooh, wow. That has to be quite something. I do have a good amount of Arran. Not the 25, though. Greg's Whiskey Guide will appreciate this. I have this private cask, 11-year-old, all sherry cask strength, selected by La Maison du Whisky in Paris. I bought this in Paris and brought it home with me. I have not opened it yet, but I have that. I also have their heavily peated whiskey, the Macramore. This is the new bottling, Macramore at cask strength. So this one I haven't opened either. This one I'm going to do really soon. I have had Macramore before, and I wasn't overly blown away by it, but I've never had the cask strength. So we're going to check this out. What other Arran do I have? Oh, I also have the Arran 21 and the Arran 18. Both are good. Good distillery. I think that the attention that they're getting, regardless of their, claims to have an island style, the attention Arran's getting is worth it. And mostly because, as they were doing in the past, as well as they are now, they're bottling at integrity. 46%, no chill filtration, natural color. What you want to see. And in an age where this is increasingly, in some cases becoming more scarce, you're seeing distilleries like Arran, Glenallachie, who are getting more and more attention that are bottling with integrity. So I'm happy to say positive things about Arran. And quite frankly, I'm happy to buy stuff from them because it's delicious. One other thing I should mention about Arran, which I think is actually kind of cool. And I don't think any other distillery has done this. So you're not going to be able to see it very well. But on their bottles, you may notice this little bumps here. They actually put it in Braille, like the name of the whiskey. So they're expanding the accessibility of single malt Scotch to people who may be visually impaired. I think that's really cool. So I dig it. And again, so as far as our first whiskey on the Island tour, I don't know that this is indicative of much about Island whiskey, but good to see Alan here. Yes, Leg Distillery is peated Arran. Okay, good to know. Good to know. And they are not open yet, but soon, correct? Jack the Pickled Hound is sending his signal from New York City. Yeah. I think I will do the comparison. I have an open bottle of the other one. I'll record a video of that. That'll be good. I'll do that. That'll be fun. NAS Original 2010. Wow. That sounds cool. Juniper. No, it's not any of the current spirits made with Job's tears. That I do not know. Wondered if Arran 10 won the Whiskey of the Year just to see how much you could push sales needle. His influence. Oh, it was just meh. Oh, you weren't a huge fan of the Arran 10? I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. The online thing that some of the Whiskey 2 people put together, I did not participate. Not because I was against it or anything. I just wasn't part of the thing. But I think it was like Ralphie and Roy, Aquavite, and some other folks. And this was their consensus pick. And interesting. I don't know. I mean, not sure what they're. I tend to think that. I mean, I know more about Ralphie than I do about Roy, but I would say that his motivations would be because he thinks it's a good spirit. He seems to be pretty high on the integrity mark. Heathery Pete is distinctive. Definitely Highland Park. Yes. Wisconsin. My first time visiting was business in Wausau in the dead of winter. Yeah, man. Wausau, dude. That's cold. I'm from Milwaukee, but yeah, I have family just north of Wausau. Oh yeah. Northern Wisconsin, man. It's beautiful, but it gets rough. Maritime influence. So I'm with you on that, right? And when I was thinking about the Arran 10, I was like, this does have a little bit of that crispness, a little bit of that maybe even slightly briny saltiness. But I was also thinking, another whiskey has a lot of that's not on the islands, that tastes very similar, I think, to this in many ways. Old Pulteney 12. It's a coastal whiskey in the Highlands, right? Has that kind of butterscotchy flavor, has a bit of that saltiness, a bit of that kind of the fresh crispness that comes with it. Not an island whiskey. I don't know. But I kind of agree with you. I think I get a little bit of it here. I have a few more that we're going to taste tonight, and they all have different kinds of finishes and stuff. So we're going to see what we can learn. Oh, brutal. That's a long drive. It was 6 hours from Wausau or something. Woo-wee. That's rough. Geez, HP 18 is so good back in the day. It's such a shame the newer versions are so generic. I have heard that. I have an older-ish bottling, and I have had the newer one. Yeah. I know, right? So that's what they say right here on Jack on the bottle. Arran says, this expression of the Arran malt with all the hallmarks of our classic island style. So we're 1 for 1 on Island Whiskey's branding with Island. Michael Besley with the $10 super chat, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, buddy. Shout out to you over in Maryland. I need to get a little sound effect thing for super chats, I think. For now, you're just going to have to take my voice of appreciation. And I do appreciate it very much. Thank you so much, sir. Very, very cool. Leg is open. Oh, all right. They're open, but they haven't bottled anything yet. We don't know. Eric, do you have a bottle of the Paul John Oloroso? Yes, I do. I will be reviewing it this year. Is that what you're drinking right now? Alpha Crown, how are you? Good morning. Also coastal distillery, but no coastal elements in their juice. There you go. I mean, if we're going to continue talking about somewhat controversial ideas here, is island or region, is it not? I'll throw another one out there. Do you believe that ocean influence actually shows up in a scotch? Or is it just sodium buildup in the casks? Maybe that's asking the same question 2 different ways. But, you know, they like to talk about sea, you know, the ocean air flying through it and all this. Why do some have it and not others? Glenmorangie is a great example. I mean, you get it. You get some of that maritime malt is what Old Pulteney calls their stuff. Do you get it in there? I'm not getting much of it in this Arran at all. And they're right on the coast. Or maybe they're not right on the coast. I don't know. I think it is minor, if anything, the influence. I really do. But hey, it makes it sound great. And it's part of the thing that makes scotch so great. Okay. I'll leave that to the debate. Okay. We are heading up the west side of Scotland. We're going up the coast, y'all. And our next stop is going to be at the Isle of Mull. Let me just make sure I have this open so I can see all the regions. Yes. So we are bypassing Jura, going through the Corrie Vrecken, heading on up to the Isle of Mull. And on the Isle of Mull sits a really, really great distillery, in my opinion, and one that also flies under the bit of the radar. Tobermory. Here in the States, finding a bottle of Tobermory unpeated, good freaking luck with that. They're not very easy to find. What you will find is their peated stuff, which is the Lechag. I love me some Lechag. Maybe we'll try a Lechag a little bit later, but I decided that we would go with it for the purposes of this flight. The next thing we were going to do would be the Tobermory because it's unpeated. It's a little bit gentler. It's sweeter. It's just slightly higher ABV at 46.3% than our Arran 10. And again, this is one of these distilleries that I think flies under the radar significantly. Lechag 10, I think, gets a good amount of hype these days now from Whiskey Tube. But your average consumer is not really going to buy Lechag 10. And that's a pretty heavily peated 10-year-old malt. But what we're going to try here is the whiskey of the namesake, Tobermory. This is a 12-year-old whiskey. It is non-chill filtered. How do I know that? It says it on the bottle. So we're 2 for 2 on integrity in the islands. How about that, folks? Tobermory, we are expressive by nature, colorful island location, 12-year-old signature expression. This is a demonstration of our distilling artistry. There you go. Oh, Jack, it's the very definition of our island artistry. So we have island style, island artistry. Okay. Here's the box again, Isle of Mull. Framed by the landscape of our beautiful island, it is also reflected in our distinctive spirits. Okay, so this whiskey, this distillery is really old, 1798. They have a lot to say about their distillery. They don't have much to say about the whiskey that we're drinking other than it's 12 years old. So it looks like we're flying a little naked here. So we are 2 for 2 on non-chill filtered in the islands. We are 2 for 2 on them mentioning being something about the islands. And 46% or higher. So this is great. What do folks think about Tobermory? Anybody had this? I will say if you live overseas, you've probably had a lot more freaking Tobermory because they have a lot more of these bottles available. Yeah, you know, I've had some Juras and I didn't like them, but I just don't have any. If I had a Jura, I would totally have included it in this. I'm a Mull and Arran fan, so there's a region right there that both do peated and unpeated. Yes, totally. And man, David Hong, cheers, New York City, from Chicago to New York. Thank you for the $5 super chat, sir. I appreciate you very much. Thank you for the support, man. Very, very cool. Peter White owns 0 Tobermories. Do you have any Lechegs? Or are you just saying Tobermory, anything from the distillery? I've been waiting for your review on the Oloroso for a while. I haven't tried it yet. Gotcha. Yeah, you know, I can look at when I have it scheduled. It's definitely on the radar for in the next month or two, I think. I'd have to double check. Glenmorangie has a warehouse closer to the sea than the others. They even name it, the whiskey, that they call it Cellar 13. The seashore influence is light, but you can feel it, says Craig's Whiskey Guide. Okay. I love what they're doing at Tobermory, says Michael Besley. It is one of the most beautiful locations for a distillery, and recent bottlings are tremendous. I take it you have seen it firsthand. That is freaking awesome. Just got himself a 17-year-old Oloroso Tobermory. Greg, I haven't connected with the new one. Tasted it in bad condition, so I have to retry. Yeah, 2 for 2 on the Island marketing, right? I've been to Tobermory, Ontario, says Peter White. There you go. That's awesome. All right. So I know next to nothing about what's happening with this whiskey because they don't tell you shit. But this is the color, which we think it might be fake. Okay. Let me see what we can figure out here. Again, so this is, if Arran is as far south on the west coast as you can really get in terms of the islands that wrap around the west and north sides of Scotland, we're going up about, I don't know, a quarter of the way north here with Tobermory. It's got some nice oily legs, which is great. Again, non-chill filtered, 46.3%. Let's check it out. On the nose. Okay. So I can tell you right away what's really interesting about this. There is a earthy, musty quality to this whiskey. If you've ever had a Kilkerran, Glen Scotia, Benromic Springbank, it's like a milder version of that. It's got some of this earthy, which usually is kind of comes from like earthen floor warehouses where it matures. I don't know if that's what they're doing at Tobermory. But there's a nice kind of bready, biscuity quality to this. There's gentle spices, cinnamon, maybe like allspice kind of thing. This whiskey's kind of on the spice savory side. A little bit of sweetness coming through though. Vanilla, ripe fruit. Really quite a bit going on here. I don't know if it's going to, I've not drank this in a long time, so I don't really remember. How harmonious this is all going to end up being, I'm not sure. But complex. And it's got a really nice nose. Just kind of, it's not jumping out at you, it's very sweet. And the more you go in, the more you find. Okay, so here we go. Tobermory, 12 years old, Isle of Mull. The second stop on our Islands whiskey tour. Cilantro. Let's give it a taste. Well, that's interesting. I'm going to have to do a second sip before I can even talk about this. This is a fascinating whiskey. Again, so U.S. price on this, if you can find it in the U.S. Sometimes you can. You're looking at right on that, again, $55 to $65 mark. Here we go. Okay. if we remember back to the Arran 10, we were talking about it kind of having a little bit of a saltiness, a little bit of a crispness, a little bit of a freshness that maybe could be associated with like a maritime climate. That is present in this whiskey too. So this is the second one. I'm picking it up here. As for the flavor, this has to be a ex-bourbon, ex-Oloroso sherry or ex-sherry hodgepodge going on here, because there is a lot of flavors. Vanillas and butter, brown butter. You're also getting a bit of, again, this kind of earthiness, almost slightly sulfuric. You got some juicy fruits, like a juice, like whatever those pears are. There's some that are really crisp, and there's some that are just like really juicy. It's the latter. Ton of that going on in here. Little hints of red fruit here and there, cinnamon, slight matchstick quality, medium long finish. This has a Marsala nature to it. I don't know if folks who are fans of Marsala sherry finishes, kind of that like heavier fruit, kind of syrupy, kind of nutty. Medium finish, medium long maybe. Quite interesting stuff. My guess here, though, again, like they don't tell you. Oh, I lied. They do. I take this back. Apparently, it's all gently aged next bourbon. Fascinating. Would have had me fooled on that. This definitely tastes like it has a sherry or Marsala character to it. Good. It's like a whiskey that's kind of... This is a hard to define spirit. The signature nature of this, I don't know how to describe it as like this is if you poured me 4 whiskeys from Tobermory, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's a Tobermory, because it has this distinct quality. I'm not quite picking that up here. I think there's a lot going on here, but it's good. It's definitely like a 12-year-old whiskey with some character, with a little bit of foostiness, with a little bit of earthiness to it. Pretty delicious. I will say that it says floral on the front. I am not picking up much floral, but I am also really bad at picking up floral. So maybe it's there and I'm just not picking it up. But all in all, it's again similar to the Arran 10, full-bodied, pretty full-bodied whiskey for a young whiskey. Not edgy alcohol-wise. Nice long finishes. A little bit of that coastal saltiness. There you go. Has anybody had this before? Again, so yeah, this is from the Isle of Mull. Tobermory also makes Lecheg, which is probably, if you haven't had it, Lecheg 10-year-old is a really, really good whiskey. I also would recommend their 18 if you want to buy something really special. Our good friend Michael Besley has seen it, and he's all about it. Good to hear. Alpha Crown. Only Tobermory 12 once in a bar. I don't know if it was a bad batch. Just too oaky for me. Seems like they use virgin oak. Okay. Yeah, I could see that. I'm not finding this to be too oaky. But it's definitely darker. I mean, the bourbon cask quality of this is pretty evident. And here I was thinking there might have been a little sherry in it, but I guess not. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I miss the old style of Chag. I recently opened early 2000s, like close to Talisker, which is cool, lightly peated. Interesting. Yeah, all ex-bourbon cask. Yeah, I heard about that. That like 1996 thing that they did. I bought the 18 over that when I was at the Whiskey Exchange in London a couple years back. I have to say I prefer the Chag to Tobermory, but they're both good. Yeah, I kind of feel like I kind of feel you on that. I mean, this is one of these whiskeys that I can be totally real with you. It's like, I'm not sure when I'm going to reach for it, which probably explains why it has a nice amount of dust on the top. And there's still half of it left, and I've probably had this for quite some time. Yeah. it's just not something that I find. It's like a little too busy for an easy sipper, but it's also just got a bit of it's a little bit too much on the savor side. It's a little bit too much. Like this is something you would drink later in a flight. The way that I have set this flight up is really just a couple different factors, and I'd love to hear how other people think about this. But basically, the thought process for the flight here is like you kind of start with lower ABV, non-peated bourbon cask. And the idea here is that it's not going to exhaust your palate as quickly, right? So you're kind of going up. So this went up a little bit. And then next, I'm going to go into some bourbon cask peat. Then I'm going to go into some sherry cask peat. Okay. So it's all going to kind of move in that direction because I find that peat and sherry, and depending on what type of sherry, but in this case, these are some heavy red sherries. And these will really exhaust your palate. And you don't want to do the Arran 10 after the Highland Park Dark Origins or the Talisker Distillers Edition. You're just not going to get as much out of it. Conversely, you know, like you don't want to do the Torabhaig before either of these because it's going to have this peat flavor in your mouth and going to kind of take a bit away. So it's like a theory of how you kind of structure a tasting, right? Start lighter, start with more bourbon cask, more easily drinkable stuff, gentler whiskeys. When you're going forward, ratchet up the ABV, peat, sherry, kind of interchangeable. Some people would say sherry kind of exhaust your palate quicker than peat. Others would say the opposite. If you combine them both, so that's kind of the structure we're following here. Ledaig 10 sherry cask, Valence Mallet is the best 10-year-old single malt I've ever tried. Ringing endorsement. When Peter White says that, y'all should listen. That's good to know. I should keep an eye out for that. Has anybody tried the Arran Sauternes cask NAS? I have not. Food Quig has and loved it. I've not had it. I've seen it. I never bought it. It's like 50% ABV too, if I'm not mistaken. You know, this Tobermory is I'm torn between really liking this and finding it just kind of, this is a weird whiskey for me. If I was going to throw a number on this, I haven't done a review. I will do a full review this year, I think. This is that 3.25 range. It's an above average whiskey. It's a quality whiskey. The flavor palette is just a very distinct one. This would probably go pretty nice with a cigar. It's got some of that heaviness, but as far as just kind of like a everyday sipper, I just don't see myself reaching for Drama Tobermory 12 as like a something to kick off my night. Kind of tastes like an old, like your grandfather's scotch, your grandfather's cocktail. So, yeah, and again, it's not super cheap either. So, I mean, solid stuff, a quality product, no doubt. It's just not quite sure what I think about it yet. So we'll let it sit in that slightly above average score range. Okay. And we got 8 folks in still, so that's great. It's great to see everybody. I hope everyone's enjoying the show. I want to thank David, Hong, and Michael for the super chats, man. I really appreciated those. It was super cool. And we're going to move right along on our islands journey here. Yeah, indeed, man. Indeed. Indy, Vancouver's in the house. What's up? Yes. Well, is that a good thing? It means we got to work tomorrow. I hope you have off Wednesday. The other half of the fearsome twosome out in the City of Angels, it's our good boy Cohen. Hello, sir. Great to see you, man. Alpha Crown has tried that Ledaig 18. Cheesy funkiness and chili powder is really strange, but it's fun to drink. Yeah, at 89, that's a great price. It was so much more expensive when I bought it. For some reason, that whiskey's gotten more inexpensive. That is a really weird whiskey, and weird isn't the word. It is a very challenging, and as Tobermory just kind of seems to be in general, it's not super accessible. This is a whiskey distillery that their malt can throw you a bit put you on a bit of an adventure. So, of the two so far, I'm more on the Arran 10 side. All right, Michael, he's got to head out. You have a great weekend too, man. Thank you again for the support, brother. Signing off to Michael Besley there. Okay. Next up, we are heading north again to stop at the island of Skye. So, for many, many years, the Isle of Skye was known for one distillery and one distillery only. And that is the very famous, much loved by many, not necessarily me, Talisker. But recently, a new distillery has opened on island or on Skye, and it is called Torabhaig. What I have here is the 2017 Legacy Series, the inaugural release from Torabhaig. So here's what's interesting. As far as our score sheets go, this whiskey is also bottled at 46%. It is also non-chill filtered, and it is also natural color. So we are 3 for 3 on island whiskeys bottled with integrity, which is really cool to see. This one is a heavily peated malt made from concerto malted barley with in-grain phenols of 55 to 60 parts per million, fermented with Pinnacle MG plus yeast and aged solely in first fill bourbon, bottled at 46% with no chill filtration or coloring, and a residual phenol level of 16 ppm. If I had a clapping noise effect, I would play it for Torabhaig. This is what every distillery should do on every bottle they put out. This is what you want to see. All the information you could possibly want. You do not have to go on Google to learn about the whiskey you're drinking. So Torabhaig is doing it right. They tell you everything you need to know. As I said, they are from the Isle of Skye. Now, the next question. So here we have a peated whiskey, bourbon cask, bottled with integrity. But the next question is, do they talk about the mysterious island heritage, island style, island artistry like we saw in the other two? Here we go. Let me look. They don't use the word island specifically. But, oh, wait a minute. I spoke too soon. This one's not as obvious about it, but here's what they have to say. There's an intriguing complexity to peated whiskey, endless depths to explore, blah, 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 blah. Shaped by Skye. This whiskey was shaped by Skye as much as us. From the two burns that feed us with the purest island spring water, to the willful climate that governs the rhythms of this distillery, this is a whiskey as complex and compelling as its wild and rugged land of origin. So they are playing up their Highland nature. This is, as Arran says, they have an island style. As Tobermory said, it's an island artistry. This one here has island spring water. This one also says it's shaped by its habitat. And yet a completely different whiskey than the last two that we've had. Here is the bottle. And I have to say, I quite like the look of their bottles as well. Island of Skye, again, in integrity bottling from Torabhaig. They are, I should mention this too. If this wasn't enough, if this is the gold standard wasn't enough, all that information about how it's made, what it's aged in, the yeast they use, which is even more information than I probably care about, bottling, ABV, chill filtration, and coloring mentioned, neither in here. They also take the back of the bottle, which so many people use for more marketing fluff, And what do? They say the exact same stuff. Heavily peated single malt whiskey made with concerto malted barley with an ingrained phenol content of 55 to 60 ppm, blah, blah, blah. Same thing. Be more like Torabhaig, everybody. The next distillery that we talk about is going to be the opposite of this. But they know what they're doing. I dig it. This is the first bottling. They have another whiskey out nowadays, too, if you've not seen it. Greg's Whiskey Guide likes the packaging. I agree. Has anybody had either of the Torabhaig releases yet? Our boy Cohen's drinking some Smokehead. No coloring, but the way it looks too dark and natural. I figure it's chill filtered. Probably very young Kalila. There you go. Hey, Troopers in the house. On the Balcones baby corn. $19 at Walmart, dude. Living your best life, man. That's awesome. That's a good fucking deal. Good to see you, Trooper. Hope all is well down there on the coast. Always great to have him in here. Island Spring Water. Still need to went through a bunch of filters to drink it. Yeah, exactly. I purchased a 2021 Lega. Getting ready to get something on my tax return. They'll be burning a hole in my pockets. Feel you on that. Okay, so this is this beautiful non-colored, non-fake colored, natural. The only thing that this Torabhaig lacks is an age statement, but something tells me it doesn't have an age statement, but it does have the vintage statement, so we'll give it credit. 2017. I think this is about 4 years old. So this is the first whiskey that they bottled. I did do a review of this. I thought rather highly of it. It's been a while since I've had it. Let's try it again. Here we go. Torabhaig, 2017, the Legacy Series, aged in American oak for bourbon cask. And I agree with you, Greg. I tend to really like their packaging and presentation as well. It's a nice looking bottle. Okay, here we go. On the nose. Young, peppery, punchy, fresh peat. It's a little bit earthy. There's lots of vanilla. There's slight herbalness to it. Sweet, smoke, spice. That's what you're getting here. I will tell you, both in color and in style, this reminds me a little bit of an Ardbeg 10. Replace that ash, that road tar ash with a bit more fresh earthiness, and you got yourself the comparison between the two. As you go deeper, you even get little hints of chocolate in here. Maybe even a bit meaty, savory. Again, I'm really impressed with their. They have a second one out now, and I'm going to buy it just basically on the fact that I liked this, and I really respect the fact that they are so transparent about their whiskey. I don't think there's a distillery that is as transparent as them. I'm not sure there's any. Bruichlotti's not even as transparent as them. Well, here we go. Torabhaig Legacy Series. Island number 3. Let's give it a try. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the second whiskey I've said that about. Spicy. Vanilla. Butterscotch. Creamy. Big hit of peat. Medium finish. A little bit of toffee. A little bit of malted milk ball. Ash. Charcoal smoke. This is a more peaty than smoky whiskey, meaning that it's a bit more heavy on the tongue in terms of peat, like the effervescence, the dryingness, than it is like smoky, but this is no slouch at all. It's good. Bottle of this one about $55-$60. They have a new one called like the Alt Glen, I believe is out. I have not had that yet. But that one is also right around $55-$60. So you're getting younger whiskey, bottled with integrity, with a vintage age statement on it. Yeah. I mean, man, there ain't nothing wrong with this. It does say it has characterful maritime qualities. So again, they're playing up the maritime level. I'll tell you right now, even if I didn't like this as much as I did, even if I thought it was average, I'd buy the next one just because of the standard that they're holding themselves to. Glenallachie is not this transparent. Brooklottie's not even this transparent. And those are some of the better ones. Springbank's not this much transparent. Torabhaig is like it's like if Ralphie Mitchell opened a distillery, it would be modeled like Torabhaig, because they're just like, he'd fucking use everything he can to tell you everything about the damn whiskey on it. This is clearly set for people who are like intermediate Scotch drinkers, if not more. And it does say smoke and brine. That's the third question, right? So are we getting any of that saltiness that we picked up in the Arran 10 and the Tobermory? More on the Arran 10. The peat, it makes it a little tougher, but it's fresh. It does have that coastal note. Like dry, damp wood on a dock. Again, is this just because it's the peat and the barley, or is this because it's next to the ocean and the oxygen's going through the barrels? Who knows? It's a nice whiskey, though. I think I probably gave this a 3.75. I think I would sit right there with that on this. Even at its youth, it punches above its weight. It's bottled with integrity. This is a good bottle. And I'm really curious what the new one tastes like. Let me catch up on the chat here. Did the Torabhaig disclose where they sourced their barley? It did not say that. It says it's concerto malted barley. I'm assuming that's just from Scotland. I also brushed my teeth before noting Eric would go. Drinking a blueberry smoothie. Way too early for whiskey. I'm not Australian or Scottish, says Colin. Yeah, I feel you on that. Not too early in Chicago. It is 7 o'clock. We'll roll with it. Folks chatting about each other, talking about rum, talking about whiskey, talking about all sorts of good stuff. There's Donner Pass. What's up, brother? Enjoying us from work. Art McCurran also disclosed every single detail, including the entire list of cast men. Yeah, I'm into that. Balvenie is another one that's pretty good. I mean, yeah. Good call. That's good bourbon. Or I'm sorry, that's good rum. I totally agree. Let me put a little water on this. What else can I say about this? I mean, I don't know, man. This ain't the most complex whiskey in the world, but this is worth your money. This is worth your money. ML Muser. Curious how you would rate Lefroy 10 casting 13 and 14 compared to batch 12. 12, 13, 14. Yeah. 14, and I drank it a couple times, as folks who've watched my comparison review today between the two new ones. Missing the mark with a Lefroy 10 cask strength is still a good whiskey. So let me be totally clear about that. What I will say, though, is that I just, compared to the 13, the fact that, first of all, it's still not clear to me why they're putting out two profiles in one year. I've never seen them do two expressions in 1 year of the cask strength 10. And the 14, I think, is much weaker than the 13 in terms of complexity. And I think it's the only one I've given below a 4. But I loved the 12. I didn't love the 11 as much. 12, I think, was a return to the form I like. There tends to be two dominant forms of them. It's either medicinal, smoky peat forward, or it's more like meaty, savory. Batch 7 and batch 11, more of that savory. I don't love it quite as much. 10 is probably my favorite that I've had, other than the batch 4 up there, which is a work of art. Yeah, I think 12 and 13 are both really good. They're buy. 14, if it's the only one you can get, buy it. But if you can get 13, I would go 13 over 14. Just being real. High Coast, there's a lot of info like Bruichladdich does on their website and stuff. Yeah, the 12 is yum yum. Again, though, I mean, we're splitting hairs. None of these are bad. I would never. I don't think I've ever had one that I would say is bad. That 14 don't live up to the 13 at all, in my opinion. And I think I gave it due diligence. Again, Torabhaig. Put this one on your radar screen, y'all. This is legit whiskey. I think this is only going to get better. And I think they're going to end up being, I'm going to make a bold statement. I think they're going to end up maybe not overtaking, but if they're not already, they're going to definitely embarrass the next distillery that we're going to talk about. The 14. So I did do a comparison video today. Well, it dropped today. Here's what I'll say about it. The 14, both of them had a bit of a refined nature to them, but the 13 still had the complexity and range that the 14 I felt was a bit more restrained on. Also, the finish left me something to be desired. It was one of the weaker ones I've had, I'll be honest. I don't know. It didn't quite. And again, I don't know what to say about this. Like it's. So here's the weird thing about it. Is since I've been drinking scotch, and maybe some of y'all who've been paying attention to this longer than me will have a better answer. But I'll tell you, I have never seen them put out two expressions of the cask strength 10 in 1 year. They've always had their own year. Each batch is from its own year. It's the way it seems to have been done. But last year, two of them, the batch 13 has a January 2021 date on it, and the batch 14 has a June 2021. I've never seen that since I've been doing this. So I'm wondering if they're trying to push more of it out. But the weird thing is, it's like I go to the stores here in Chicago, and they got both of them. It's like they're both just sitting there under Laphroaig 10 cask strength, and it's if you don't pay attention, you're just grabbing it. You don't realize there's two different batches there. The 14 has showed up more recently. It's still been available here in the States for at least 4 months in some places. And the 13 has been available for 6 months probably. So why are they dropping two of these at once? Basically two of these at once? And what's the strategy here? Are they trying, if you're going to release two of these, you would space it out more, I would think. Do 2 a year. And I'll tell you, if they're going to do 2 a year, this was not a great this was not as strong of a showing as it could have been. I'll say this: I'm not an expert, but I've had probably 70% of the Laphroaig 10 casters. I think the only ones I've not had is batch 1. I've not had batch 1. I've not had batch 5, and I've not had batch 6. I've had the rest. In fact, I think I have bottles of all the rest. And the 14 I found to be probably the least interesting that I've had. It's still good, but with the prices going up. I mean, these used to be $75, $70 a bottle. Now they're like $90. If you walk into the store and your choice is between 13 and 14, I go 13. If you can only get the 14, it's still Laphroaig 10 cask strength. But let's just hope that they're not going down a road that they're going to be stripping that whiskey of its quality. I don't know, but Laphroaig, they love chill filtering. Well, those aren't chill filtering. I'm sorry. They love putting color in their whiskey. You just never know, man. I mean, the Laphroaig 10 ain't what it used to be, right? We all know that. We got 13 folks in, which is great. I just, generally speaking, if I think when it comes for bang for your buck for money, quality and money combined, the best Laphroaig can give is the 10 cask strength. I'll stand by that. I think it's the best quality product they put out consistently that's available for most folks to get their hands on, even if it's a little bit of a reach, and still gives you a really signature experience. It's what Islay whiskey is all about. I mean, if there's one whiskey that encapsulates everything about Islay Scotch, I think it's Laphroaig 10 cask strength. That said, some are better than others, and the 14 is an example of that. So that's where I'm at on that. Okay, let me give me just a second here, y'all. I just have to do a quick message to somebody, which I didn't even realize had popped up. Okay, maybe we're going to have a guest. I don't know. Oh, but I do have another. You know what? Let me get the next whiskey poured. We're not leaving the Isle of Skye just yet, y'all. And this is going to be a fresh bottle, so I want to get this in the glass quick before we go further. We'll talk about it in just a moment. This will just take me 1 second. Ooh, this is an older bottle too. Well, not that old. All right. I mean, you know what it is. It's on the scroll. I've been waiting a long time to open another bottle of this. Okay, just a sec, y'all. This is going to take me about 30 seconds. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see here. Yep. All right. Almost set. And action. 26. 5. Bam, bam, bam. Okay. All set. So we're hanging out on Skye still. This is in the sort of northern, our journey started in the southern, the warm waters of southern west side of Scotland. Not so much. Well, we're heading north now, and we are still on Skye, and we're going to the OG of the Isle of Skye. As I said, Torabhaig, new distillery there. But the one that we're checking out today is the classic, the distillery that has defined island whiskey, that has defined the island of Skye. One of my not favorite distilleries. We got a just uncorked fresh bottle of Talisker Distiller's Edition, double matured in Amoroso caskwood. This is 48.5% ABV. This is also a vintage statement whiskey. This is the bottle, and it is a beautiful bottle. This one in particular is bottled in 2018 and distilled in 2008. So this is their 10-year that has been aged in Amoroso. What is Amoroso? A really heavy red wine, sherry, full flavor, similar on the heavier than an Oloroso kind of, but it's in that area, right? So, what to say about this? Okay, so first of all, great to have 13 folks in. We're heading into the second hour here. I will catch up on the chat here in just a second. This is, so if you're not familiar Distiller's Edition is not just something unique from Talisker. Distiller's Edition is a Diageo brand style release that they do annually for most of the distilleries owned by Diageo, including Talisker. So every year, there's a new Talisker Distiller's Edition. There's a new Lagavulin Distiller's Edition. There's a new Kleinleash Distiller's Edition, Cragganmore Distiller's Edition, Kalila Distiller's Edition, Glenkinchie Distiller's Edition. There's, I think, a few other distillers. So basically what Diageo does here is they take the signature core range whiskey. In the case of Lagavulin, it's the 16. In the case of Glenkinchie, it's the 12. In the case of Talisker, it's a 10. And they do a special finish on it. Each one's different. Kalila gets a Pheno finish, I believe. Lagavulin gets a PX finish. Diageo gets Amoroso. Okay, so here we go. Talisker gets the Amoroso. This is a distillery that, you know, the Talisker 10, very, very famous. Everybody loves it. Everything's bottled at minimum 45.8%, which I think has to do with their coordinates or something like that. I don't know. This one's from a few years back. And here's what it's got to say. The rugged western shores of the Isle of Skye come a richly flavored maritime malt. A warming afterglow, so easy to enjoy, yet like Skye itself, so hard to leave. Distilled at the Talisker Distillery, Isle of Skye, made by the sea. So while they're not saying island specifically, come on, I mean, they're totally hyping up their island style. So this is the fourth whiskey of the four we've had, a completely different styled whiskey, yet still talking about their island stuff. Here's what the back says. Talisker single malt is from the oldest distillery on the Isle of Skye. Well, it was the only distillery on the Isle of Skye until a couple of years ago. The shore of Loch Harport in the jagged shadow of the peaks of the Cuillin. Founded 1830. It remains faithful to its traditional values, is what they say. The result is prize whiskey described by Scottish poet Robert Louis Stevenson as the king of drinks. Made by the sea in every sense, the powerful peat smoke and maritime character of Talisker reflect the storm-lashed surroundings. Distiller's Edition is a richer than the regular bottling, wonderfully double matured ex Amoroso for fruity blah, 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 blah. Okay, so there you go. Okay, guess what? Much like the regular Talisker 10, this has got fake color in it. This has chill filtration. Unlike Torabhaig. How do we know that? Because it doesn't say jack shit about it on the box nor on the bottle. So we can assume there's fake color. We can assume that there is chill filtration. Unfortunately. But it is reality. So the ABV I was wrong about. They do have their latitude, longitude on here, but it has nothing to do with 48.6. But they do use 45.8. Pardon me. I don't know why. But there's some reason. It is a nice looking bottle nonetheless. Before we get into it, my general thoughts on Talisker, not one of my favorite distillers. Talisker 10, the non-age statement Talisker Skye, the non-age statement not Skye, Storm, the Dark Storm, all whiskeys that I find their very sharp, peppery nature to be a bit off-putting. The 18 I thought was okay. But as far as young Taliskers go, well, I'm not a huge fan of the 10, and I don't think it's that great of a whiskey at all. The Distiller's Edition at around $70, $75 USD. When it's got the sherry cask, in this case Amoroso added, I've liked it in the past. It has been about 3 years since I've had one of these. I have never reviewed it. So it will be getting reviewed this year, but we're uncorking it tonight, and I'm going to revisit this after a while. So as this sits here, let me just catch up on the top lines of the chat. Alfred, I hate to say it, Compass Box No Name 3 is the best Lafroig I've had. Oh, yeah. They blend that in there, I believe, yeah. Flaming Heart is a great Kalila. Do you have Arran Micromore Cast Drink Batch 4? I thought I saw it on your shelf at some point. Really cool peated whiskey for me. Smoking ash. I have the Arran Micromore Cast Drink. This one This is a newer one. I don't know what the batch is, though. Let me look. Does it have the batch on it? It's 56.2%. So if that's the batch, then yeah, I got it right here. If not, I'm not sure. No. Not sure, man. This is the only cask strength I've ever had. So if this is it, this is it. So not totally sure. Folks chatting back and forth at each other about some whiskeys, which is always cool. Koa and Laphroaig is doing an online tasting in about 2 weeks with batch 14 and Cartridge Triplewood. Why would they do Cartridge Triplewood? That's strange. The Cartridge Triplewood was like 3 years ago. Huh. I suppose if you're going to, the last 2 cartridges they did were wine casks or sherry casks rather. So, you got to find something else to drink that's similar to it, I guess. I don't know. I'll have to check that out. I've heard about that. Yeah. First Fill Bourbon Warehouse #1. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that too. I mean, the one from last year I thought was great. The PX. It was the best one they've done since I think the Fino, in my opinion. The suburbs of Atlanta are in the house. It's our boy IC86. What's up, man? Great to see you, man. Happy Friday. Yeah, James Chang's a fan. All right. Only Talisker I've had was the 200 ml bottle of the 10. Just okay for me. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. I know. That's sad to hear, but that seems to be the case with this distillery generally. Well, you know what, Donner Pat, since you won some of the Patreon samples, you know what? I'll throw a sample of this in there too, so you can try this one. Kalila, it's still Muscatel, yeah. Okay. What Diageo does is chill, filter, color, and dilute, and raise prices every time. Yeah. Seems to be the case. Old label Talisker Distiller Edition got 1211 yarn, and the sherry influence is more solid than the current. Richard's debatable. Ralphie did a video roasting Talisker after the 18-1 awards, and he said look up on Google Maps Diageo site on the mainland where the casks age surrounded by chicken farms. Oh God, no. Yeah, well, hopefully Torabhaig, is going to make them turn their asses around. I do love Talisker, one of my top 10s. Okay. Yeah, a lot of people love Talisker 10. It's one of those first whiskeys they had that was peated and all that. It just never did it for me. Peter White says the 15 cask strength is great. I still love the Talisker 10, even if it's chill filtered in the low of the E150. Yeah, man, that's a lot of folks love it. Where is the Highland Park cask strength 2 and the Highland Park cask strength single cask store picks? I do not have the Highland Park cask strength batch 2. I have a Highland Park single cask, like one of those 12s or something from like way back when. I don't know store picks, unfortunately. I have to say I got bored, if not annoyed, a lot of the recently by some YouTubers behaving so a bit, pulling back from some places. Oh, shit. Well, sorry to hear that, man. Yeah, I've not done the Highland Park. I haven't bought the batch 2 cask strength. I didn't love the first one that much. It's fine, but I didn't. Highland Park's one of those distilleries, man, which we're going to talk about next. Just, man, hard to keep up with. Okay, so here we are on whiskey 4 of the flight, and as I mentioned, like I started off, and this is generally the way I would do it: lower ABV and bourbon cask primarily as the maturation. So we started with Arran 10, then we did Tobermory 12, which bumped up to 46.3. Then we did the Torabhaig, which introduced the peat, but still bourbon cask, 45.8. Now we are introducing, or the Torabhaig was 46. Now we're introducing 45.8. This is Amoroso cask and the Talisker peat thing. So we're we're going to have this going for us. Here's the color. Probably not real. I only bought that $1 more. I know. I shouldn't have done it, man. No. I never claimed to be principled. You're right, though, Cohen. You're right. Okay. Is this going to be as good as I remember it? Let's find out. On the nose. Dark, rich fruit, dried berries. It has a bit of peat and smoke and vanilla. Yes. A bit of that pepperiness, fresh, salty, a little bit. Okay, so we are seeing a little bit of a saltiness. Not all these have been smoky, but there's a little brininess. Relatively balanced, surprisingly. I feel like this Amoroso cask works really well with this. I'll be honest, the Diageo Distillers additions, regardless of what folks think about Diageo, I don't have a necessarily positive opinion. I do have to admit their Distillers additions have been pretty good, particularly the Lagavulin Distillers with the PX finish I quite like. There's a little bit of a meaty quality to this too. Almost like a barbecue note. It's got some energy. It's got some punch. It's got some freshness. All these things are happening here. Let's give it a try. Here we go. Talisker Distillers Edition, bottled in 2018, so it was 4 years ago. Solange, here we go. Man, that's good. If I was going to drink a Talisker, this is the one. It's a little short, but here's basically what you're working with. It has that peppery sharpness that's characteristic of Talisker. I'm getting a bit of a salty, almost like there's like a saltiness on the finish. There's a acts like the after effect of kind of like eating red fruit, berry. It's there, cherry even. The event itself, this is a surprisingly lighter whiskey on the palate. So I'd say it's maybe like medium. You'd expect it to be kind of heavy given how heavy Amoroso is. Sweet, fruity, ripe, smoky. The reason I like this one, it's the introduction of that sherry cask. It's just bringing another dimension to it. So I'm not as focused how much on that kind of sour, grapefruity, heavily peppery nature of a lot of Talisker. This is a good whiskey. Is this a 4 out of 5 whiskey? No. And the main reason is that the finish is too damn sharp. It's all over too soon. You'd like to see this hang around for 3 or 4 more seconds. This leaves you wanting. That's why, despite the heaviness of Amoroso and the like just punchy attack of Talisker, this is a weirdly drinkable whiskey. Like dangerously sippable, I should say. This isn't something you take your time with. Even almost at 46%, it's you could drink a lot of this if you have a palate that has that's geared towards peatier whiskeys. You take this down no problem. Style wise, it kind of reminds me of a Kilchoman Saneg. I like it. It's over too soon. 3.25 out of this maybe. Good stuff. Above average. And I wouldn't overpay on this. $80, sure. I wouldn't go too much higher than that. Donner Pass, I'm going to bottle some of this up for you. A couple drops on here. Just because I feel like we got to kind of see what else we were working with. I mean, it has that sour peppery note from Talisker, which I just don't like. But it's... I can put it aside, and I feel like it's muted. It's rounded off a bit by the sherry in here, which is what I think makes me enjoy this whiskey more. I just don't really like the Talisker 10. If you bought me a bottle of Talisker 10, it'd take me a long time to finish it. A little bit of water. What are we working with here? So again, I do want to stress, while they don't put age statements on these distillers editions, these are, by and large, the core range releases from these Diageo and distilleries just with a finish. So this is a Talisker 10 with a finish. The Lagavulin Distillers Edition is a Lagavulin 16 with a finish. So on and so forth. Kalila, Glenkinchie. There's a couple others. Oban. Oban has a pheno. I haven't done the Oban before. All right, here we go on the nose with water. Again, I can't stress enough, man. Adding water really just does wonders for a whiskey. This has gotten sweeter and lighter. There's a bit of kind of like vanilla parfait strawberries. So it's went from darker fruits to now more lighter fruits showing up. Still getting a bit of that freshness, which is something that I think we've picked up consistently through. A little bit of that salinity, a little bit of that freshness. Not incredibly smoky, but it's there. You're almost getting hints of like cranberry, tart, raspberry, shit like that. It's good. Here we go with water. Anybody have this? I mean, that is a Talisker. Dry, punchy, peppery. It's just that finish. You just wish this hung around longer. That Amoroso cask, it's just not as thick and sticky as you want. You'd want this to develop it more. It's like a 4 or 5 second event, maybe a little bit less. And then you're just in the finish. It's a little bit hollow. It's just missing some of the more... It's missing a richness that you would want out of this. And I think that maybe that, I've had other editions of this. I think a 2017 I thought was maybe better than this one. This one's lacking a little bit, but nonetheless, like, it does give you a sense of the profile, and it's not a bad whiskey. I think I'd sitting at like 3.25 on this. This just needs a little better maturation. I don't know, better cask. I don't know. Not bad. Yeah. We'll let some oxygen do its magic on this. This was the only uncorking we're going to do in this flight tonight. So, give it its day in court, right? I'm not going to cast it off like some type of... It ain't trash, Yeah. A decent release from a distillery that I really don't go to that much. Folks chatting back and forth. Dalmore, Tori. Ren's in the house. What up, Ren? Excellent. I started off this flight with that. A quite enjoyable dram. How are things in Canada? Nova Scotia, right? Newfoundland? Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia. If I'm wrong, I'll do another drink. Kidding. I got another one anyway. All right. a decent whiskey that's just over too soon. I'm trying to be objective, as I've mentioned. I'm just not a huge Talisker fan. Yeah, for sure, man. I'll throw that in there for you. Talisker DE often downtunes the distillery style for me. It's even worse by chill filtering and not changing its ABV too. If it was like, yeah, Greg's got a good point. Greg knows what's going on. By the way, folks, if you've yet to, you can tell this man knows what he's talking about. Shoot a subscription over to Greg's Whiskey Guide. He does great whiskey reviews. He's an overall cool dude. He had me over for a really epic tasting when I was over in Paris last year. You can see pictures of that on our Instagrams. Good times. Yeah, this isn't great. It's good. Maybe other folks like it. Again, I'm trying to put away my bias of just not being a big Talisker fan. But Jesus. $25K for no. I wouldn't even play with that. All right. That's okay, wait. You guys want to hear about there's the photography on here, so that there's a no. I mean, if they're not trying to tell you about their islands. Here's the quote. The explosion of a storm-lashed sea as it collides with the rocks of Skye brings to mind an irresistible force acting on an immovable object. For me, this expression expresses a timeless power of Skye, strong and unyielding. If that's not going to sell you a bottle of whiskey, what will? Probably the weakest of the batches so far, but I mean, it's still pretty solid. Oh, I'm sorry. You're in Vancouver. Definitely. Yeah, that's insane. The pick of the Isles so far. I would go. So we've had 4. We started down in the south, on the west coast, down in the south, on the island of Arran. Then we went to Mull. We are just wrapping up our little tour of Skye, and now we are heading over to Orkney. I would say, if I was going to rank these are all very different whiskeys. Again, have we found a unifying theme other than the advertising talking about islands? Maybe a little bit of saltiness and freshness, but that's about it. These are all very different whiskeys. Arran 10 is 1. Torabhaig Legacy Edition is 2. So I'd go 4 out of 5 on the Arran 10, 3.75 out of 5 on the Torabhaig with upside. Tobermory 12 would be 3rd. Isle of Mull in that 3.5 range, 3.25 on the Talisker Distillers Edition, give or take. We'll see where it goes. And then we're going to wrap things up for the tasting, the tour, as I should say. As we're now going off the west coast, we're going up and over the top of Scotland mainland to a little island called Orkney, where there are 2 other island distilleries hanging out. One of them, most of you probably never had a whiskey from, including me, called Scapa. The other one, a distillery that you've probably definitely had, because how can you avoid it these days? It's our good friend, Highland Park. Oh boy, where do we start with good old Highland Park? So we are on the island of Orkney, which is really only known for one thing, and that is Highland Park. Now, one thing I will mention about a lot of these island distilleries is that a lot of them they're quite old. In fact, older than a lot of the other ones on the mainland. Tobermory, 1798. Talisker was what was Talisker? 1830. Here we got Highland Park, 1798. Now, the bottle that we're going to do tonight, because of the nature of this tasting, I had to get something that was going to be bold and PD and assertive to to stand up to the Talisker Distillers Edition. So first of all, let me just say this. I love Highland Park. Highland Park's signature whiskey, their style is unique. It is a nice mix of bourbon and sherry cask, usually heavier on the sherry. It has a sweet heather peat, so you got a little smoke, but it's on the sweeter side. Just a incredibly delicious freaking whiskey if you get the right ones. If you don't get the right ones, what do you find out about Talisker? Or I'm sorry, what do you find out about Highland Park is that they put out a whole bunch of stuff. Some of it's good, some of it's not. This has really been a compounding issue in the last few years where they've switched to this whole Viking theme and everything's a Viking this, Viking that, and they've put out more NAS whiskeys than you can shake a stick at. And most of them, I think, are pretty middling. The one that we're going to talk about tonight, I think I would largely say is an exception to the rule in terms of good NAS whiskeys coming out of Highland Park. This is one that is not exactly easy to get your hands on anymore, but it is perfect for this flight, which again started with lighter ABV bourbon cask. We started with Arran 10, 46%, bourbon cask primarily, Tobermory 12, 46.3, non-peated, bourbon-y. Then we moved to Torabhaig, 48.5 or Torabhaig was 46%, bourbon cask with peat. And then we did Talisker, 45.8%, peat and sherry. And now we are moving on to 46.8%. It is the Highland Park Dark Origins. I don't know if they are huge fans of Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, but my God, does that look like him? If you're in the United States, you know what I'm talking about. This is a little bit in the old style of Highland Park. It's not that old of a whiskey. Here's the bottle. Highland Park Dark Origins. This is... All right. Here's what I can tell you about Highland Park Dark Origins. Highland Park takes its name from the High Park area on the outskirts of Crookerall, Orkney, where on 1798, Magnus, blah, 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 began distilling illegal whiskey. And he was a smuggler. Okay. So this was founded by a smuggler. Finest homegrown single malt. It is a non-chill filtered version of Highland Park. It says so right here. How cool is that? This is a double first fill sherry cask. So literally it's thrown into, there's no age statement, but for some amount of time it's thrown into a first fill sherry, and then it's thrown into another one. So heavy sherry madness going on here. So why is this called Dark Origins? Here we go. Because it's Highland Park. For you English majors out there, you'll probably enjoy this. Establishing a secret bunker in the hills of High Park in Orkney, Magnus Unsen became a dark distiller, creating whiskey for the people of Orkney to offer relief from the villainy of the tax collectors. By day, he worked tirelessly in his church, providing spiritual guidance to the people of Orkney. But in the dead of night, he handcrafted the best elixir in the world, warming hearts and uniting all that tasted it. Double first fill sherry cask for a naturally darker, richer flavor. I mean, come on, right? It's a completely black bottle. I wish that all bottles that did this, they would put something on the side so you know which whiskey was left. Haven't had this one in a while. Quite like it. But this is a really good example. This is a really heavy sherried whiskey. So we're moving away from bourbon and doing complete sherry now, which is sherry and peat combination. That's if you're gonna have a whiskey that has a lot of sherry and peat in your flight, this is the one. This is the style to do it. Heavy sherry and peat. That's the color. It's probably fake because they don't say anything about it, and there is no age statement, so who knows how old this whiskey is. Dark Origins, good, but too sweet. Some kids, you whine constantly that things are too sweet. There you go. Hooded Menace, the most metal bottle. Yes, it was very metal. I mean, yeah. No doubt. Full Volume was also relatively metal up there. Dark Origins claims his Alpha Crown that they use double amount of First Wheel Sherry than Highland Park 12, but the problem is how much First Wheel Sherry they put into Highland Park 12. I think Highland Park 12 also has bourbon cask, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong. But I will say Highland Park, if you go back through my whiskey reviews, Highland Park is the number one go back to whiskey that I have. I think Highland Park at 12 is the absolute all-arounder. Gives you a little bit of everything. Great palate starter, good price. Still a decent whiskey, although its quality has been slowly slipping over the years. Milkman's Kids in the house. What's up? I think this is a damn good one. And he says Cohen says no coloring. That's great. I wish they would say that on here. They do say non-chill filtered, which is awesome. I just wish they would say natural color. Now, I know some of the Highland Parks, they will mention on the back that it's not, that it's real color. But this one doesn't. Unless I'm missing it. No. You know, unlike Torabhaig, who wants to give you a ton of info, this one doesn't. Nonetheless, here we are, Highland Park Dark Origins. If you find a bottle of this on the shelf in the U.S. these days, you're looking at $75 to $85. Yeah, it's an NES. I think it's kind of worth it. I quite like this whiskey, and this is a great way to end our island flight. So we are now on Orkney. Again, Scapa and Highland Park are the distilleries there, but Highland Park is the one that everybody seems to know. Highland Park is a roll of the dice when you're at the store. Here we go on the nose. Okay. This is sherry pedal to the metal. Dry fruit notes, kind of like a potpourri, but there's a sweetness around it. It's not completely dry. So you're getting some of that Christmas spice. What you're also getting here is a lot of really nice cherry, dark berries, really just fruity nose on this. Is there peat? Yeah, it's that sweet, slight heather peat that you get out of Highland Park. It's got some of that. Is it the most complex whiskey? No, but it's just a full-on sherry bomb. And I have to say I'm here for it. Now, they don't mention the islands on theirs. So this is the one whiskey that doesn't really talk about island nature, its maritime quality, any of that. The other four did. This one doesn't. They also don't. It also doesn't have that salinity to it. Now, this is a lot of sherry cask, so maybe that's why. But this doesn't really have that salinity, coastal nature to it. It just has a warm, rich, inviting, oaky, heavily sherried, just fruity bomb whiskey. Definitely tastes like it has some. It's more on the. I do want to emphasize it's more on like the heavier, darker fruit side. It has as much light fruit. Hence, Dark Origins, right? It'd be weird if this was like a super sweet light whiskey. All right, to the Isle of Orkney we go. Let's give it a taste. Launch, y'all. Fuck yeah. That is so good. Spicy, fruity, caramely, pretty rich, dark fruits, a little bit of peat. The finish, better than the Talisker Distiller's Edition, but could use a little bit more. Again, we don't know how old this is. Probably about a 10-year-old whiskey. Who knows? Man, that's good. It's a sherry bomb. If you like sherry, this is a damn good Highland Park. It has that characteristic Highland Park, the kind of honey, bready note, the like light oak char, the sweet peat. The nose is great. You know, if you're a Highland Park drinker, you know this is a Highland Park because the nose is just so classic Highland Park. the little bit of rich peat, the little like flinty matchstick note, the slight sulfur note, the heavy sherry, that sweet heather peat. It's a little sharp, maybe showing a little bit of its youth, but man, I could drink this. I could drink this for a while. It's a big event. A lot of fruit, a lot of intensity, spice, dark fruit, dried fruit, and then you get a kind of drying finish, little hints of coffee bean. Again, kind of Christmas baking spices. It's not the most even whiskey. It is very much a like full force kind of 2 or 3 notes, but it does it really well. This is a really nice Highland Park. I think this one sits in that 3.75 range for me. If you gave me the option between this or the Talisker Distiller's Edition, I would take this, even though it's probably younger. I just think it's a better product. The Torabhaig, well, not sherried, close. But is this the best characterization of a Highland Park for an island whiskey tour? Probably not, but I don't care. Because I wanted to open that Distiller's Edition. This is a good whiskey, y'all. I mean, if you can find it around the States, I'd grab it. I really would. I would grab it. I would grab it at under $85. I think that's a good, decent price point. If you really want to reach for it, go for it. I wouldn't reach for this on secondary market. I think you'll be disappointed it's not enough to pay over like $100 some for. But man, this is a really solid, fun, intense whiskey that's just doing what it does best. Let me try a little water. The funny thing about this one is like you would have thought this would be their goofier marketing, but then 2019 happened and you were like, wow, everything's called Viking. It's the Viking, the Viking heart, the Viking scars, the Viking pride, and then there's all the Vals. There's the Val Father, the Valkyrie, Valnut, Val Kilmer. I mean, there's just like a bunch of them. All right, what is the water doing to this? It's still nice and dry and spicy and fruity. Not much change on the nose. Okay. Brings a bit more richness on the palate. Water's good on this. It's good. Yeah, I'm in that 3.5, 3.75 range on this one, legit. Nice big sherry bomb. Would love to see this with an age statement, but whatever. The ABV is where it needs to be. 46.8. As for the salinity, the coastal nature, the saltiness, I can't say I'm picking up a ton of it. It could just be the overwhelming flavor of this whiskey. But look, all in all, this is a totally solid dram. Let me catch up on the chat. What's going on, y'all? Mookman said using 80% first fill sherry cast, 20% refill. European oak. Okay, that's where that spice is coming from. European oak, yeah. Cohen knows what's up. Good to know, man. No coloring in the dark origins. All right. I'm okay. Thanks, Mom. Hope you're doing. I'm doing good, man. Great to see you on a Friday, buddy. Glad you could tune in. Where are you joining us from again? Weak, oaky, is spicy, burnt caramel and wood, watery, undefined was my memory of it. I mean, I agree with you. I wouldn't say weak. Oaky, spicy, burnt caramel, maybe. What about watery? Yeah, Give it a try again. You never know. The old 15 for 85. That's, I don't know. I don't think that 15 was all that good. The new one's not all that great either. 85.90 euro for me. It wasn't worthy. There you go. Milkman's head nod. Take care, man. Be well. I can still find it for 100 on Canadian. Was leaning towards getting the Valknut for 30 less. No, get Dark Origins over the Valknut. Yeah. No, I haven't. I've had the regular Highland Park, like an older version of the Highland Park 25. Hey, it's Winston the Whiskey Cat. Come on up, buddy. Oh, yeah. What's going on, man? Good to see you. Oh. I have had the like a 25 from like I think 2015 or 14. I got a sample from Mike's Whiskey Reviews. That was awesome. What do you think about the Dark Origins? Nope. Chris Whiskey Guide, Donner Pessa's the new 15. It's not bad. It's not great. I don't know. I wasn't that impressed. Were you? He wants to rub his hand on the brim. You gotta switch hands. That's a great price. Oh, nice. $40. Really? That's a great price. Really great price. All right. If you haven't yet, hit that thumbs up. I hope you guys are enjoying this. This is fun. So we did a little tour of all the islands. I think the conclusion here is that, yeah, as a region, tough to say any of these. I mean, maybe this one of the best examples of them all, but I don't really sense any commonality between these. I think by and large, it's a little bit of a marketing thing, but if there's any region that has the most diversity, it's definitely going to be this island region. Unabomber whiskey. Man, that's tasty. Yeah, if you can find this, man. I found this at a rando store near my house here in Chicago. They just had like two of them sitting on the shelf for $69.99. I was like, yoink. Grab those. It's like, I don't know why they have them sitting there, but you got to love it when you go to the old shops and they got the dusty bottles just sitting there. What do you think, Winston? What do you think? He's no fan of whiskey, despite being the whiskey cat. As we've learned. Oh, Ren's been doing some blending. Yeah. You too, man. Great to see you, Greg. Thanks for hanging out, man. Appreciate you. All right, y'all. I'm going to wrap things up here. We are heading into primetime Friday night, so I hope everybody enjoyed this little tour, man. And I do want to give a shout out to Michael Besley and to Daniel Hong for the super chats, man. I appreciate those. Those were very, very cool. Probably going to have another jam or two and then head into the weekend, man. I hope everybody has a great, great weekend. I will be back on Tuesday for Tasty Tuesday Happy Hour, as you all expect. We'll be doing another live show, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 Central. We will be doing Kayo, which is a whiskey from Japan, cast strength version. That's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to tasting that and sharing my thoughts with folks and hearing what you guys think about that. It's been a long time since I've done a whiskey from Japan, so that'll be cool. Whiskey review dropped today. Lafroig 10, cast strength 13 verse 14 batches. Check that out. like, subscribe if you haven't, man. And with that, I'm going to send you all off into your weekends, man. It's been cool as hell hanging out on a Friday. Appreciate you all. And take yourself some good care of yourselves. Be well. We'll see you Tuesday. Slaunch.